This is Lefty and Cheapa.
Hey, what's up, guys?
So we're coming at you for another TV show review that we had mentioned earlier on our intro. It's going to be the Marvel Netflix series that's now on Disney Plus. If somehow you could just follow what I just said. And here we are with UnBet with yet more content. We keep pumping it out. You guys keep watching it and like, comment, and subscribe. But we're going to be reviewing episodes 1 through 3, and I just wanted to go over a couple of the guys that started this. So the original guy, his name is Drew Goddard. He created the show, and he was the original showrunner, and he actually had to leave the show during the middle of the production in the first season because they were trying to come out with a Sinister Six movie with Marvel. And by now we know that Sinister Six never happened. So that's unfortunate. They got a guy named Stephen DeKnight. Stephen DeKnight.
The Bears. D-Night.
So they got Mr. Steven to follow up on the showrunner duties for season 1. He actually created Spartacus, and will be doing Spartacus in the new season that's going to come out sometime in the next year. And he actually was one of the writers on Transformers in 2015 for the future movies of that series, which are some of the better ones, to be honest. Stephen DeKnight actually got his start with Buffy the Vampire Slayer as a writer, director, writer, producer on Angel, Smallville, man, I think he knows somebody at CW. Spartacus, writer. He didn't direct any of them, though. He directed 1 episode and wrote 3 on Daredevil. Jupiter's Legacy, which came out in 2021, which unfortunately got canceled. And as I mentioned, Spartacus, House of Asher. So, what were your thoughts on the first 3 episodes? Just as an overview on the first 3 episodes of season 1.
Okay, if I may blaspheme a little bit for a moment. I was really afraid. I remember when they said they were going to do Daredevil. I was afraid because Daredevil had been done as a movie starring our favorite Puerto Rican, non-Puerto Rican, Ben Affleck. El Ben.
Who actually knows Spanish, by the way.
Oh, he does. He does well too.
Yeah.
He can actually kill it. I've seen him do a few interviews, in Spanish, so he does pretty good. But while his language skills are great, that movie in and of itself was a flop. And so, when in the history of comic book turn movie, once they do a flop, it has a history of a flop. Like the Incredible Hulk was done several times and they didn't do it well. And then finally the Edward Norton version was pretty good. And then came Mark Ruffalo, which was better, but ultimately I was afraid when they did Daredevil because I thought they were going to flop. That was my thoughts going into it. And then first episode, of course, I thought it was going to be cheesy, a little bit, but they follow the comic book theme very well, which when I critique something like comic book gone movie, I look at what line of the story they're going to follow. What did they follow it well? of course, there's going to be some artistic license because it's Hollywood, but at the same time, did they give us enough of what was in the original content? And so, so they did a pretty decent job. They actually did a pretty decent job of bringing about Daredevil and his character the way that it was portrayed in the books, in the comic books.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the comic that they based this off of. There it is. So it was adapted by Frank Miller and John Romita's 1993 miniseries Daredevil: The Man Without Fear.
Yep.
And basically, Daredevil, apparently Goddard had been a longtime fan of Daredevil being raised Catholic, and just the main theme between the whole series is how he deals with right and wrong, and just
hold on. So even as you're saying that, let's just go on ahead and throw this out there. Again, like we said in the intro, there's going to be spoilers. If you haven't watched it and you don't want to know what's going on, we're really analyzing and breaking down the show. So you might want to go watch it first and then come back. But go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good point because I was about to
lay it all out. I knew you were.
Somebody's whole viewing experience, even though you should probably know what happened, and the shit's been out 10 years.
Right.
I digress.
I mean, what about the younger generations? Somebody's just now getting to it.
That's crazy. Someone that's like, let's say 15 was
yeah.
out.
Yep.
Thinks
it's old. My son is 10 years old, and he's like, "Oh, Mom, we gotta watch Daredevil." And then after the third episode, he was all like, "Oh, Mom, this is like that girl on Daredevil." And I'm like, "Oh, look at you referencing the old stuff."
Right. Like, I had somebody ask me the other day. They were like freshman year of high school or something. They were like, "Oh, do you do like the OG comics?" And I was like, "Well, yeah. What do you mean?" He's like, "Oh, like Iron Man 1?" I was like, "Damn."
The real old stuff.
The OG stuff, man.
Yeah.
I was in college when that came out.
I know.
That's crazy. Anyway, so, okay. He struggles with right and wrong, and he feels like he has to, there's an internal struggle between right and wrong and what's acceptable and what's not. And also, how he deals with that on the law side of things, as a lawyer. And he's, and plus him being raised Catholic doesn't help things because of, in the Catholic theology, it's basically, your works and what you do. And that's a large part of that specific theology, if I could get nerdy for a minute. So, episode 1, we get introduced to. It starts off with a fight scene, I believe, right?
Yeah.
In the alley.
Within the first 7 minutes, he's walking down. No. Within the first 7 minutes, that's where he kind of busts up whatever's going on at the back of that truck.
Right.
What's the black guy's name there? Because he's around in
It's
Luke Cage. He's around in several.
You're talking about the weapons dealer?
Yeah, the weapons dealer.
No idea who that guy. He
has a name though. I know he has a name, and I think we know his name maybe first in Luke Cage. I think.
Yeah, I don't know. He's
Okay.
in my notes.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it later.
Yeah, because in my notes, his name is weapons dealer guy.
Not the weapons dealer guy. In your notes it should be the weapons dealer guy who constantly gets his behind handed to him.
Oh man. Do you know who he's like? He's like that Joe Pesci character in Lethal Weapon, where he just gets picked on over and over again.
Over and over again. Yeah, he constantly gets his behind handed to him.
So yeah, so there's a fight out in the alley, and that's what kind of sucks you in, right? Is the martial arts ninja stuff that's going on, or at least that's what sucked me in. I don't know, but my initial thought on the series when I was watching it was, okay, they're gonna do a gritty, very grounded, because by 2015 we had already seen Avengers, and Avengers is really light, right? Like light act, like not, there's a lot of action and some of it can be violent, but the coloring scheme or whatever you call it that they use is very light.
Yeah, it's toned down and it's not gory. Because like Hulk smash, I mean, technically Loki should have been in bits and pieces. I don't care if he was a demigod, but you didn't see like elbows turned in different directions and all of that nonsense. You see that more in Daredevil.
Right. And so they basically darkened everything, and just they tried to visually make it more gritty, and I was vibing with that because in 2015 we had already seen gritty done before, especially with the Batman series, the Dark Knight or whatever, right? With Christopher Nolan.
Mm-hmm.
So by 2015, we had already been introduced. And I was like, oh, okay. So they're going to try to do gritty stuff like Batman, but with Daredevil, and it has ninjas. I love ninjas. I love ninjas in action. So I was down. That's what I mean. Basically anything with violence, I'll pretty much watch. So episode 1, his dad is an old school boxer. If you follow boxing at all, you know that that the criminal underworld had a big hand of it back in the day. I mean, if we're basing it off of the year that it came out, which would have been, assuming Daredevil's like 35, we're talking what, 1980 in the early 80s. So yeah, like
definitely the early 80s, I would say.
So like we would definitely be talking about the mob being an intricate part of boxing at that point, and that's basically what happened. His dad used to throw fights sometimes to get extra money. So he ends up meeting up with. Well, okay. I think the dad dies in episode 1, right?
Yeah.
So the dad dies in episode 1. Basically, he wanted his son to witness him actually winning a fight and actually trying to win. And and they took him out.
Well, not only that, but let's just it was key for a reason. His son had already told him, even when you lose, you win, because he threw the fight and he got paid big payout and he was able to pay his rent. And so because of that, he basically is like, he realizes that by telling his son that, he's not teaching him the right lesson, you know. And so he's like, they say even when you lose you win, but then it becomes a problem. So the guys that he threw the fight for comes to him and tells him, hey, we have the fight of the, you know, it's an opportunity for you. It's a big, it would be the equivalent of, you know, Mike Tyson and George Foreman. You know, there's an opportunity for you to fight a big name. And so here's your opportunity, but we need you to throw the fight. And so he struggled with that because he didn't want to throw the fight. He agreed to throw the fight, but he didn't want to.
Right. And fast forward a little bit, he meets his future office manager because someone tries to kill her in her apartment, and he could tell the truth via listening to her heartbeat. That's where we get into some of the special abilities that Daredevil has.
Right.
In episode 1, we get the first intro to Nobu, who is basically Daredevil's counterpart in a criminal organization that we'll get into more later. But right. Nobu's dope in season 1.
Yeah, well, it's the let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, but it's 7 of them, but it's really 5 because the Russians count as 1, right? Mm-hmm. So the 2 Russian brothers, they count as 1, and then you have Nobu, Leland, Gao, Wesley, which Wesley and Fisk kind of count as 1 because they operate together, like their agenda is the same. Yeah. But I believe Wesley was until his exit, he was a force to be reckoned with of his own. So those were all the bad guys or the bosses in this episode.
Yep.
And then I think too that another good point to bring out is, like you said, you know, they get into a little bit of the special ability, but people don't realize that the ninja skills was a special ability. And I believe that was a big problem with the Hollywood version or the Hollywood rendition of Daredevil. I believe that the way that they produced it also was messed up because they did not focus on his ninja skills. And back then, ninja skills was just like, okay, you could disappear or move silently through the night and throw stars. The fighting ability was I don't know, underrated, I'd say. Underrated would be a good one. So the fighting skills was underrated. And then on top of the fact that he has the ninja skills as well as being blind, you know, visually impaired, I guess is the politically correct way to say that. So being
and we are always trying to be politically correct here on UnBet.
Right. So he's visually impaired, and then that enhances his abilities. So yeah.
So we get the first intro to Nobu, then we meet Toby Leonard Moore, who's James Wesley. I have him in my notes as a homie from Billions.
I didn't see Billions. I wouldn't know who you're talking about. I know Daredevil because I don't know the Billions.
Yeah, Billions is another one. It's a good show. It's not on Tubi yet, and so there's so then that's where we get the meeting between James Wesley, the older actor, dude. I've seen this guy a million times and I didn't know his name. Leland Owsley is his character in here, but I've seen him around a million times.
Yeah, he's always some kind of pissant that either is trying to call the shots but gets dealt with at the end, or I mean, I'm just saying, like that's what he always plays that role. I don't know why he decided to get into acting and be like, you know what, I'm gonna be the best pissant there's ever been in Hollywood, because he's good at that role.
The pissiest ant.
The pissiest ant. That's right. He is literally a pissant, and you could see that he's squealy, he's wormy. You know, he thinks he got one over on Kingpin, but he ain't got none.
So he's the warden from Shawshank Redemption.
He is. He is that's right.
He was also in Demolition Man.
And that's a family fave, by the way.
Yeah. Patch Adams. Secretary. Jesus.
Woo!
Secretary of Defense in 24. The quick note is he actually served in the Army and has a Bronze Star.
Wow.
But you wouldn't know that by the characters he plays.
No kidding. The Army and a Bronze Star, that's a big deal, right? You know, like that's some leadership ability there, because you don't.
Oh, by the way, thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. Hey, thank you for your service. We're going to give you that role of a pissant. I appreciate you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
So
was all of your skills.
So he was the older actor meeting with Madame Gao. We actually get introduced to Madame Gao, who's going to be, all through this series, leading all the way up to at least Defenders. And I got Madame Gao in my notes as a evil Yoda chick.
The evil Yoda chick. I just had the little boss lady, because she's a force to be reckoned with of all her own. Even though, we all thought Nobu had skills, and Madame Gao, she's something else.
Yeah, so
she is an entrepreneur, though. Let me go back. Is that in this episode? Let me check my notes real quick. It is. Bro, her drug ring, I'm surprised more people haven't done it to this day. Although I know I'm not relegating visually impaired people to criminal activities. However, that was kind of genius of her to have the visually impaired people packing their little backpacks with their little canes and stuffing drugs in their little envelopes. She was chauffeuring them around. She was giving them some good money, better money than what I think the government would give. And I was like, man, if I was a kingpin watching this show, I feel like, you know what? Start hiring some people that can't testify against me in court.
No, yeah. It was slick what they were doing.
Yeah.
So the two fight scenes, the first introduces the weapons dealer guy, and the second is a martial arts knockdown drag out. And something that I noticed was they're fighting in Karen's apartment. You know what's funny is that since this show came out, I can't even say the name Karen without me thinking of just certain things that have happened since then. Like Karen went from being a name to becoming a noun since then.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Well, let me tell you, if we ever do discuss Karen, I have a lot to say about that chick, because she pisses me off the whole series. The whole series.
So she was a Karen before Karen was a Karen.
I'm wondering if she was Becky with the blonde hair. If you ask Beyonce, yeah, no, yeah, I don't know. She makes me mad the whole time. So yeah, if we get off into her and Foggy,
Well, yeah. So it's a knockdown drag out. In the second fight scene, it seems like Daredevil, once they got outside, he got better. And I wonder if that's like a nod to, in the Ben Affleck movie, he could almost kind of see with the raindrops. But they don't use it and they don't mention it. It's
right?
just when they were inside, he was getting pieced up. And
That's
then
right.
and then when they were outside, he starts actually dodging some punches and kicks for a change. And
Right.
it was just really good chemistry between the two fighters, and uh, that first season, that first episode was pretty dope. So I knew at the end of episode one, and then back then, you could just binge it. So I was like, I'm about to be in this,
Yeah.
and I don't know when I'm gonna stop.
Yeah.
That was episode one.
Yeah, I agree. It was good. At the end of episode one, I started the series thinking that I was not gonna watch Daredevil. I was like, let's see what they got, because last time it was an epic fail, and so man, and then okay, so
Didn't I call you
also
after I seen
you did call me. And then on top of that, the guy they got to play Daredevil, because I'll be honest with you, I do like Ben Affleck. So my thought process was, I wish they would have brought him back and did it the right way, right? So, because some of my problems wasn't about his acting. He's acted before, although his role choice tends to be, a little spotty, but he has some acting skills. The thing is, my problem with the Hollywood version was it had a lot to do with production, had a lot to do with the line that they chose and what they chose to portray on the screen, and communicate to the people that don't read the comic books. So initially I was like, nah, and then you called me and I was like, are you sure? I'll check it out because Angel said. I'll check it out because Lefty said, and so I was like, we'll see.
Telling people my government name.
Your government name, yeah. But yeah, so no, that was my thought process. But I'll tell you what, by the end of it, I was like, okay, all right, them fight scenes were on point. And on top of that, it came with that storyline, right? Because like you said, he could hear her heartbeat, and we knew that he could tell that she was telling the truth. And within that same episode, of course, she lies to him. And then it was because he caught her up in the lie that he followed her. And in essence, he ended up saving her life. Because ultimately, even though she don't know it's him, of course, in essence, he ends up saving her life because the guy was there to kill her.
All right. So that ends episode one. Episode two. Now, when I got sucked in, and usually, like, if I see something good, because at the time, I think me and you were both working nights, and sometimes I'll see something and I'll call her and be like, dude, and she'll be like, what? And I'm like, and I just tell her this, and then I hang up and I'm like, all right, let me watch episode two, Then episode two was better.
So I would equate that phone call to the phone call that I got when you watched Shrapnel.
Yeah.
That's the phone call I got when you were watching Daredevil. It was like, man, this is one of the best fight scenes in a TV episode that I've ever seen. And it's like, you had to like really be specific, and you were like, it was a TV episode. Like, there's not many action TV episodes that have this much action in it. And so I was like, what? I still haven't watched the first episode, Lefty. And he was like, you have to watch it. And I'm like, okay, all right. And then, yeah, I mean, it didn't disappoint. Well, that in that hallway, and I thought I wrote it down.
Oh well, let's get to the hallway. You know, because that's skipping all the way at the end.
Oh, but it skipped the end. But They did that thing where they started at the end and then they went back to the beginning.
Yeah, dude, they're always doing that. Like even with the. All right, I'm gonna skip ahead. Even with the fight with Nobu, there's a video on YouTube where, like, you see the fight from beginning to end, because in that episode they break it up and then they mess with the order. So there's like an episode on YouTube that they basically have the fight. They fix the order and there's no episode in between. It's just the fight scene, and it's like 9, 10, 11 minutes or whatever.
Oh, so you're talking about at the end of the season, though, right?
Yeah.
You're like talking about when Nobu comes. Yeah. When Nobu put some stank on it.
Oh man. All right. Look. All right. Episode 2. The credits roll. You skip past the credits, and Daredevil is in a garbage can.
Dude, slumped, like not, like gone.
He went Mimi's.
Yeah, he went night. The cuckoo got him.
And then that's where we meet Rosario Dawson,
right?
Who's the thread connecting all the Avengers, all the Defenders from Netflix.
Right.
And it's apparent that he's been in a fight off screen trying to rescue a boy he heard on screen at the end of the last episode. So now remember, Daredevil at this point, he's got no armor, he's got no uniform.
That's right.
So in these fights, he feels everything. And the way that they get his uniform is dope, but that's like later. So
that's almost the end of the season.
Yeah. So this is where, another scene between Daredevil and his dad. He says, don't call a fighter a bum. His dad might have thrown the fight. Daredevil says, you had him, which sets the table of his dad not being able to throw fights anymore because his son is actually paying attention and keeping up with them. And so we don't find out about this scene until after episode 1. And
well, this is like the break from the action, right? Hollywood production wise, this is a break from the action. We had some pretty serious fight scenes. We know he is BA. You know what I'm saying? We know he knocked out the drug arms dealer guy at the beginning. We know at the end he had the fight in the in Karen's apartment, and then he starts off. So we know he's a beast, and then he starts off in the dumpster, and it's like, crap, what befell him? But that's the break from the action.
What befell him?
Yeah, what befell him?
That's the King James version of UnBet right there. Whosoever putteth his hands on him.
Shall I pursue? But no, yeah. So you try to figure out. So we try to figure out what happened because he's in the dumpster, because we know he's already a beast. So the break from the action while his body is healing, and I will say that they did that well too, because even though it really happened in the span of about 24 hours, that he was, that he was like in the dumpster and beat all the way to crap, like hurting, and Rosario Dawson has to nurse him. They're flashing back during the time that he's knocked out and healing to the scenes that are happening between him and his father. And they're also flashing or maintaining what's going on presently by increasing the story between Foggy and Karen. Because while he's healing, Foggy and Karen are trying to get a hold of him, They're bar hopping because she can't go back to her apartment because she's a mentirosa, and like that's how it goes. So yes, this was a break from the action.
And so, one important point is the interaction between him and his dad. Right? He says, you had him. I don't know what happened. You had him, and his, as I said before, his dad doesn't want to throw the fights anymore because the son is actually keeping up with the fights, and because Daredevil remembers that interaction. That's basically the drive that puts everything in action. Because if Daredevil doesn't say that, his dad won't stop throwing fights, and then his dad would still be alive. So internally, he feels a nice helping of Catholic guilt that it seems as though his whole motivation of being Daredevil, he's trying to atone for that interaction. Throughout the whole series, it's what drives this whole character. So, Daredevil has multiple contusions, 3 broken ribs. We get great chemistry between Froggy and Karen, who I have in my notes as Chick, and they have a night on the town, and there's a torture scene on a Russian guy on the roof because the Russians came back because they were trying to get to Daredevil, I guess. Rosario Dawson was hiding him, and it just leads to a torture scene on the roof. He threatens to he basically threatens to throw the guy off the roof, which he didn't just threaten, he did.
So let's bring out too, this is the key, because she was trying to call the police or trying to call emergency services. What stops her from doing it is he's like, they'll kill everybody in the hospital to get to me. And so she already knew he was blind because obviously she's a nurse and his pupils didn't respond to the light. But, she does mention it to him. And right now we have the first person in the series who knows who he is and what he's doing.
Well, she doesn't know who he is.
Well, she don't know who he is, but she said she had an inkling because she's seen the guys that ended up in the hospital.
Well, yeah, like she knows what he does, but she doesn't know that he's Matt Murdock.
No. Yeah, she don't know his original identity, right?
So this leads up to one of the best fight scenes on film, and it borrows, to say it nicely, to an Asian film called Old Boy. Right. And in there's action in a hallway, and the thing that it's a confined space that they're fighting in, but it's shot to make it look like it's all in one shot. One shot basically means that there's no, it seems like
there's no cuts or edits.
There's no cuts or edits, or they did it in a way that it's made to look like that, which is extremely hard to do, and you don't see it very often. That also means that your fight choreography has to be on point, because the way that they make people look faster than what they are is they do quick edits and quick cuts of the action. Sorry everybody, Denzel Washington is not that fast in Equalizer.
Right, for sure.
There's also
put some respect on his name, okay?
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Don't start.
I'm just saying. Not that fast. But that's also Born Identity didn't have a lot of quick cuts in the first movie. They ended up switching directors
Yeah.
And then now you got, all these cuts in there to make him look faster than what he is when he was fine. That Damon was fine in Born Identity doing his stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of whatever. That's here nor there, whatever. There's also other examples of one-shot action scenes. When Creed has his first fight with Rocky in his corner when they're in Philadelphia and he fights against that Puerto Rican dude.
Yeah.
That boxing match is made to look all in one shot.
Yeah.
And actually that was 10 years before. Was it? No. This was, I think they came out at the same time, to be fair. But in that one, it was cool because based on where they were in the ring, you could hear the corner's instructions of whoever's corner that they're in, if you pay attention, which is sick because that's a great idea, and also because I've seen Creed 30 million times. So,
family favorite.
It is a family favorite. And there's also, with Scott Adkins, there's 2 movies called One Shot, where the whole movie is made to look like it's done in one shot.
I'm going to have to watch that one.
Dude.
I'm a Scott Adkins fan, so
yeah,
I'll have to watch it.
It's the whole movie, all 90 minutes, one shot.
Crazy.
Yeah. Like, that's got to be, like, in the pipeline at some point.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have to. Oh. I'm an action junkie. If anybody asks what my genre is, it's action all day, every day.
So Daredevil goes back. We find him in the dumpster in the beginning of the episode. Now he goes back for a rematch against the same dudes who put him there in the first place. And then I'm sitting there like, he's gonna go back and he ain't got no suit. He can't see. And then and then
he was still hurt. I want to say his ribs were broken or busted because he kept, favoring the side or something. And trust me, ribs hurt. Mm-hmm. That's a different kind of pain, man.
But he upped his debt. Like, see, that's what they should have did, man. Like, okay, for people that have seen a lot of action movies or have experience with any sort of combat at all, fighting or whatever, he goes back and he's not the same, like he's hurt, but he knows that he has to deal more damage to these guys because there's too many of them. And so he goes back with Muay Thai wraps on his wrist and knuckles. And that's the difference. But there was no mention of, man, I got to do more damage, blah, blah, blah. Like, that would have been nice to see because the old regular person wouldn't put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't even know that there were Muay Thai wraps in the first place.
No, I didn't know. I know some martial arts stuff, but when you start getting over into what they do, I just know it's the same type of wraps that Jean-Claude Van Damme did in one of his movies. That's all I know. So they got trained by the same guy.
So I think the movie you're talking about is Kickboxer.
Kickboxer, yeah.
Yeah. And that's like a Muay Thai movie. And so basically he's fighting with like it's the effect is made to look like plaster of Paris in boxing.
Yeah.
Where you basically have a pseudo kind of cast on your fist.
Yeah.
If you want to see what plaster of Paris does, watch Miguel Cotto versus Antonio Margarito.
I was about to say the same thing, bro. I literally was about to say the same thing.
Yep.
And then watch the revenge match because the grudge match afterwards was
watch Shane Mosley against Margarito when they caught him with that stuff on his hands right before the fight and they had to redo the wraps. and Mosley whooped his ass.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Cotto beat Mosley before that.
That's right.
So imagine that. So,
Yep.
all right.
He's our one Puerto Rican in the hole. You know, he's our ace in the hole.
Yeah.
Him and J-Lo.
So he goes back with Muay Thai wraps, right? And the action scene is supposed to look like it's all in one shot, and he fights like half a dozen dudes in a narrow hallway. And these bad guys are, these Russians aren't like done in one interaction. They get up. So that's probably what messed him up the first time around, was that he's got to put more stuff in. Like if they keep getting up, eventually they're going to overpower him, which is why he went in there with the Muay Thai wraps in the first place. So mostly everybody gets up for a second round or more.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you think about, once again, it's a testament to his ability, because ultimately, if you think about a person fighting one person or trading blows with two people, then think about a blind person or a visually impaired person trading blows with six people. You got one guy, you heard him fall, and then before you know it, he's back up. Technically, I mean, if he didn't have his ability in his mind, he would have thought he fought 12 people. Maybe even 18 people. But because some of them jokers just kept coming back. And so, but ultimately, because he has the extra ability, he can tell who the person is. He knows these jokers are literally just getting back up. And so it would have been disorienting for anybody, but someone who was trained with his ninja skills, and then also with his ability, to hone in on his the senses that he has available. The hearing, the smell, in some ways a sight that nobody else uses, stuff like that.
And then, so when people get up for their second round, right?
Second butt whooping.
When they get back up or whatever, I mean, we're seeing him throw TVs at people. We're seeing him, everything is a weapon at all times. And in the middle to 2/3 way in that fight, we start to hear him breathing hard. He's leaning on walls because he's tired, and he's hurting even more than when he came in. And he's leaning on walls and whooping ass, summoning extra strength. He's got people on the floor, and then he starts finishing them. He doesn't let them get back up. Like he does, like something that Daredevil does, man. That's it infuriates me, but I get it. Is when he goes to finish you, he'll do like a jumping, flipping,
double
knee
kick.
or leg, like leg drop on the floor to get you out to just be done.
Yeah.
But then that costs him energy, and that's why at the end, like I think that he's leaning on the wall,
it's his finishing move. Yeah.
And then he's leaning on the wall and just hitting a guy while he's leaning on the wall. And, dude, man, that's just all right. I could go on and on. But then he rescues the kid. Like, imagine being that kid, and you're just hearing whatever, right? And then like the cool part is the kid's scared because they got to be hearing all this ass whooping coming, and the ass whooping's getting closer and closer. They don't know what's going on.
One blind man walks in.
Right. The kid don't know what's going on.
Scared, come with me. I'm going to get you to your dad.
Right. But he takes off his mask, before he enters the room. So he's actually cognizant of how that would look, right?
For a kid, yeah.
And then he walks out with his face covered, and that's like a subtlety that I don't know. I guess I just didn't put together the first 3 times I watched the show. I don't know, but yeah. I don't know. Like, what's your thoughts on the second half of the fight? And then I'm done talking about it because it's just. No.
Yeah, we can go on for days about it. Like, it was a long hallway. You know, it's that long narrow hallway fight scene with 2 rooms, and people keep coming out of those rooms. He goes halfway into the room, beats the snot out of them, then comes back out to find more people waiting for him. It literally is 6 guys that rotate in and out, and it just let me tell you, when they did the camera pan and turned the other way, I said, crap, I got to restart my count. Because I was counting guys, you know, and I'm like, oh, wait, let me rewind that. How many guys is he actually fighting here, you know?
Right.
So ultimately, that camera pan, it'll mess you up. And I'm like, I couldn't even imagine being the actual person having to fight them jokers. But no, it was always one of them things. And you're right. He used them walls like a G, bro. Like he was fighting with one. At one point, he was leaning and fighting. And the other point, he leaned on the wall and brought his feet up. He used the wall as leverage to bring his feet up. Like, I was like, bro, that was crazy. So, no, I mean, look, I'll get excited about a good fight scene all day. But let's move on to the next thing, right? The kid gets rescued. Episode 3 opens up with brutality that just had me at the edge of my seat.
Hold on. So hold on. So I started losing count too. And that's good that you brought that up, because I'm like, okay, that's you know, getting punched off the wall guy, and then that's getting kicked in the face guy. Oh wait, that's TV in the face guy.
Yeah.
Okay, you remember when that TV got thrown?
TV in the face. Yeah. That's right.
So,
and he was still fighting though, right? You know, that's the kicker.
So
like, bro.
Like, and that wasn't no small, like, it wasn't an HD TV. It wasn't.
It wasn't a flat screen. It was one of the.
Tube. He threw a tube at him. All right, episode 3, because we could really do a whole episode just on a fight scene.
Oh, for real. I think, oh yeah. Listen, look, get me started.
All right, episode 3.
Episode 3.
This one off. You lead this one off, because this seems to be
episode 3. Everything seems fine, right? The Russians tried to trap him. They failed. He got the kid. Russians are now struggling to deal with the collaboration of bad guys, and so they go on ahead and move on. It opens with a guy coming into a bowling alley asking for some lanes. Seems like an unassuming guy. Got a little bald spot on the front. He's really nice and friendly to the chick behind the counter. She says, we don't have no lanes. He's using the lanes for himself. The guy who's actually bowling, he says, well, maybe I can bowl with him. And then the lady's like, go ask him. So he goes up there to ask him. The guy basically tells him, you know, F off. And so, he grabs the bowling ball and commences to beat him down with the bowling ball. Crushes, obviously, his skull, and all of his big old bodyguards that are standing around, they all got a piece of that. And he had a weapon. I don't know where the gun came from, because I was like, you could have just kept it the bowling ball, bro. Like, that would have been so much better. But he did have a gun.
Yeah, the broken bones at the bowling alley were good. Yeah, and it kind of gives us uh kind of gives us because there's a fight scene later with Daredevil and that guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so uh Daredevil has to meet with the client because the his first client is the bowling alley guy,
Yeah.
and he meets with him.
Well, hold on. So when the stuff happened with Karen, basically Karen survived that in who was it? The end of episode 1, Karen survives. And so they show Fisk and Wesley talking, and Wesley's like, "Do we need to go back and take care of Karen?" And he's like, "No." And then he was like, "What about the 2 lawyers?" He says, "Well, they're ambulance chasers." And he said, "Open up a file on them. They could be useful later." And so now here we go. Here's the useful later piece, because now this guy went into the bowling alley and basically slaughtered those jokers, and he's going to ask for them as their lawyer.
Right, and Daredevil knows that this dude is a piece of crap because he can hear his heartbeat. He knows that this guy's entirely too calm, and the guy's basically like uh, it was self defense.
Yeah,
Like
he was
he
in fear for
knows.
his life.
Yeah, like he just knows basically what what's going on, and um Foggy, because he doesn't have those abilities, he falls for this guy's games at first. Um, and there's later on, there's great action and court dynamics and Spot, where he's actively using his abilities in court and in the action at the same time, in the same episode. And uh, at the end of the episode, there's a crazy fight scene in the alley between Daredevil and bowling alley guy. Look, bowling alley guy could throw down, man.
Yep, he sure can.
And then there's a crazy, shocking ending, which we won't spoil, at the very end of that fight scene. Because that's where, I think that's where, I think that's where Daredevil learns the guy that's pulling all the strings, right? He's got his name.
Yep.
And so imagine, we've seen all this stuff, all these ninjas, we've seen all kinds of stuff, we've seen Russians and TVs and all kinds of stuff, and we haven't even gotten to the big bad yet.
Yep, that's
And
right.
we just found out his name. I mean, we know who his name was because we know the comics and stuff like that, the source material. But for people that don't know it, you don't even know who his name is until the end of episode 3.
Right. Well, and not only that, but then also we know that he don't want his name mentioned, because that happens a lot with the Russians. The Russians don't have as much respect as one would hope, I guess, if you're a kingpin. So they've said his name because, and then Wesley has rebuked them for saying the name. Right.
Not rebuked.
Yeah. Stop it. And so then here we go at the end of episode 3. We already kind of have an idea that the name is going to be coming down the pike, but it's their first time understanding that they're literally dealing with a ghost, because his identity is like, even when they know his name, they don't know who he really is.
What's crazy is, and I have this written down, we don't even get to Fisk calling himself Kingpin until season 2.
Oh yeah, no,
until he's in jail already.
Yep. Yeah.
So, and the guy who said, like the guy who basically inspired Fisk to call himself Kingpin, actually, I think he's in Blood In, Blood Out. Right?
Yeah.
So, so that was good casting.
Yeah.
Because
clever little pieces like that.
Yeah, sure. Like that's a great idea. To be like, hey, blood in, blood out guy. Be this dude who's in jail, who's basically run stuff in the prison before Kingpin gets there. And then you're going to be the inspiration of him calling himself Kingpin. I just thought it was cool.
Yeah, it was a good nod to some of the old school action movies and the old bosses. That's I feel like that was a good nod to that.
And like prison movies, right?
Yeah, prison movies. Yeah. Well, prison movies / organized crime, because that's really where you find stuff like that. It's the boss man, the Don, so to speak.
Yep. So, all right. So, I don't think it's a coincidence that the first 3 episodes were so good, because those are the episodes that get reviewed before it comes out by the critics.
Right.
And so, obviously, if you have a whole new project and you're going to base a whole little mini Defenders universe on Netflix for this, those first reviews are all important. They're everything.
Yeah.
So we get our first 3 episodes, and good things started being heard about it, blah, blah, blah. And then, the action in the first 3 episodes is crazy. And
action in the first 3 episodes is crazy. You start to know that the people that he comes to care about in his life, it's going to be a problem because he's constantly disappearing. And poor Foggy, his little pea-brained self, as he's such a good-hearted character, but he's also in a way pea-brained because he always feels like Daredevil is going to fall down and hurt himself, which is understandable because he's constantly coming up with bruises. He just don't realize he's coming up with bruises because he's basically, he don't understand that he's coming up with bruises because he's basically out there fighting crime. So, yeah. I mean, it was good. And then on top of that, they're starting to realize, okay, well, me and you were able to go hang out, but he's absent. And then he turns up and it's not super great, and then they have the disagreement about whether or not to represent the bowling ball guy. And so, you'll see that the conflict, the personal conflict is going to get pretty deep. Honestly, for me, I'm not super excited about the personal conflict. It's not because it's not action. It's because I feel it's very hypocritical. This is my soapbox. I have my opportunity. Don't stop me. But Karen, she lied. The day one, she lied. Day one, she lied about not having the material that they were looking for from Allied. And then she went and backed up that lie by going to go grab it. He saves her life. They give it to the reporter. And then she's still dealing with issues and still trying to do stuff behind their back the whole time because she's trying to dig still too. So, she's putting herself a little bit more at risk and putting probably Foggy a little bit more at risk, but they can be very sanctimonious in how they look at the way that he does things. Yes, I said sanctimonious. Yes. So, for me, Karen gets very irritating. I'm a little bit more compassionate for Foggy because Foggy was his friend from the beginning. So, and Foggy just wanted to be friends and tackle the world and altered his whole course of life because of that friendship. So I could understand Foggy a little bit. Karen, she's just very irritating. And then she gets this whole hero worship and then this self-righteousness thing going on. If she stepped out in front of a bus, I wouldn't mind.
So, Yeah. Tell us how you really feel. Oh, okay. Um, actually, Drew Goddard's movies are probably just as good as his shows, but we could go over that another time because this episode took way longer than what I thought it would.
And what we both thought it would. But this is what happens when you watch something that's good, that's worth watching. You go back and watch it, and then you pick up things that you didn't pick up before if it's done well enough, right? And then you analyze it to pieces, and that's what we're doing right now. We're analyzing. This was a definite UnBet, right? It's not even a question.
It's
More than anything, this is like, hey, this is what's happened up to this point. Look at what we're going to expect probably coming down the pike. So, and we'll continue to put content like this out as well.
I mean, I was talking to a college student last week, and I was like, "Have you seen the Daredevil series?" Blah blah blah. She's like, "I've heard about it," and then I had to compute in my mind. This came out when she was like 9. So, uh, if you haven't seen it, watch it. And I got nothing else. Just watch it and make sure that you are Googling the order that you should watch this in, because you're gonna miss stuff if you just go Daredevil season 1, 2, and 3,
Yeah.
or whatever.
There's crossover episodes, kind of like what is it the CW did with the Flash and all of those Jokers, the Green Arrow and stuff. So yeah, there's crossover episodes, there's plot twists, there's connected plot lines up until the end of Netflix owning it. So yeah, but we'll get into that probably at the start of Jessica Jones or at the start of Luke Cage.
I think
talk
it's
a little bit more.
Jones.
Yeah.
We actually messed up because Jessica Jones season 1 came out after Daredevil season 1.
Yeah.
And so we jumped the gun, which
we jumped the gun watching it, but we haven't done the reviews yet, so we're good.
So Jessica Jones is going to be, well, actually episodes 4 through 6 or 7 is going to be like next video. And this is, you got to watch this. If you haven't seen this, you got to watch it. So I'd say just start with the first 3 episodes and let us know in the comments. So, subscribe, like, and comment.
Definitely subscribe, like, and comment, but let us know what were your key points in the first 3 episodes. What did it for you? Did you turn it off? If you did, why? Just give us that input or feedback, because nothing's fun without the dialogue. We have fun talking together, but we would definitely like to interact with you guys. So that is Chipa and Lefty signing out on UnBet.
Peace. Dude, how long was that?